Someone once compared friendship to a precious gem, rare, elegant, and surrounded by fakes. After being deceived once, twice, 3 times, he said, you start to believe that real gems don't exist, that everything is just an imitation. If you see someone without friends, your first instinct might be judgment. They must be difficult, antisocial, broken somehow. But what if loneliness isn't a character flaw? What if it's a scar from trusting too deeply, giving too freely, and being used too often? Today we're exploring what a lack of friends really indicates, and it's not what you think. There's a parable I want to share with you, a story that explains why some of the kindest people have the fewest friends. It's about a man and a coffee shop, and by the end, you'll understand that loneliness often belongs to those who've been too generous with their hearts. The ancient Stoics understood something we've forgotten. Not all solitude is chosen, and not all friendship is genuine. Before we begin this journey, if you're ready to understand loneliness differently, to see it not as failure, but as wisdom earned through pain, hit that subscribe button and smash that notification bell. Help us build this community of people who understand that quality matters more than quantity, that depth matters more than breadth, that some solitude is healthier than toxic company. Let's begin with the story that explains everything. The parable, the coffee shop, and the regular. Part 1. The beginning. There was a small coffee shop on a quiet street corner, not a chain, just a local place with worn wooden tables and mismatched chairs. A young professional named Alex discovered it during a particularly rough week. Stressed, overwhelmed, looking for somewhere to escape. The shop became his refuge. The owner, Maria, noticed him that first day, saw the exhaustion in his eyes, made his coffee exactly how he needed it without him having to explain, added a pastry on the house. "You look like you could use this," she said with a warm smile. Alex came back the next day, and the next, and the next. Maria always had time to talk, to listen to his work problems, his relationship struggles, his dreams and disappointments. She'd stay late to hear him out, even when closing time had passed. The coffee shop became more than a business to Alex. It was therapy, sanctuary, the one place where someone actually cared. Maria loved having a regular who appreciated her space. She'd recommend books to him, save his favorite pastry, text him when she tried a new blend she thought he'd like. For 2 years, they built what felt like genuine friendship. Part 2. The first request. One day, Alex came in looking particularly stressed. "I hate to ask this," he said, "but I'm in a bind. I have this huge presentation tomorrow and my laptop died. Any chance I could borrow yours for a few hours? I know it's a lot to ask." Maria didn't hesitate. "Of course, I have backups of everything. Take it. Just bring it back when you're done." Alex took the laptop, worked on his presentation at a different coffee shop across town, one with better Wi-Fi. He brought it back 3 days later. No apology for the delay, just, "Thanks, you're a lifesaver." Maria noticed a few things were different. Some of her files had been moved, but she said nothing. He'd been stressed. It was fine. Part 3. The growing demands. A month later, Alex asked if he could use the shop after hours for a client meeting. "They want somewhere private and intimate. Your place is perfect. I'll pay you, of course." Maria agreed. She even stayed to make coffee for his meeting, though she'd planned to visit her sister that evening. Alex didn't pay her. "Oh man, I forgot. The client didn't end up signing anyway, but thanks for doing this." Then came other requests. Could she cater his office party? At cost, of course. He couldn't pay full price. Could she give his girlfriend a job? She wasn't qualified, but she really needed work. Could she write a recommendation letter for him for a business loan? Just make it sound good. Each time, Maria said yes. Because that's what friends do, right? They help each other. Except Alex never asked what Maria needed, never noticed when she was stressed, never offered to help when she mentioned her struggles. The friendship had become one-directional, but Maria didn't see it yet, or didn't want to. Part 4. The Crisis Point. Maria's coffee shop started struggling, rising rent, increased competition. She was working 18-hour days just to keep the doors open. She mentioned it to Alex one morning, voice tight with stress. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this place running." Alex nodded absently, scrolling through his phone. "That sucks. Hey, can I get this coffee to go? Running late for a meeting." 2 weeks later, Maria had to make a decision. She could keep the shop open, but she'd need to raise prices slightly, just enough to survive. She texted her regulars to give them a heads up, including Alex. His response, "Seriously? I've been coming here for years, and this is how you treat loyal customers. I can get coffee anywhere. Good luck with that." He never came back. Maria was devastated. Not about losing the business. She'd expected some people wouldn't want to pay more, but about losing what she thought was a friendship. She realized, to Alex, she'd never been a friend. She'd been a service provider who made him feel special. And the moment that service became less convenient, less accommodating, less profitable to him, he left. No goodbye, no acknowledgement of the years of discounted pastries, free advice, after-hours favors, borrowed equipment. Just gone. Part 5. The Reopening. Maria almost closed the shop. The financial strain was one thing. The emotional exhaustion was another. But after a month of reflection, she decided to try again. Different this time. She kept the price increase, set clear boundaries. No more staying late for customers' personal conversations. No more lending personal belongings. No more favors that stretched her thin. She put up a sign. "This is a coffee shop, not a therapy office. We're here to serve great coffee with a smile, but we're also here to maintain our sanity and sustainability." Some people loved it, appreciated the honesty. Others called her cold, unfriendly, not what she used to be. The shop survived. Slowly, it even began to thrive. Maria made real friends, people who understood that relationships require reciprocity, not just extraction. Part 6. The Return. 2 years later, Alex walked back in. He'd tried every other coffee shop in the neighborhood. They were all fine, but they weren't his place. He missed the feeling of being special, of having someone who knew his order, his story, his life. He approached the counter with a confident smile. "Hey, it's been forever. How have you been?" Maria looked at him, remembered every one-sided favor, every ignored boundary, every time she'd given and he'd taken without reciprocation. "What can I get you?" she said. Professional, polite, distant. "Come on," Alex said. "Don't be like that. I know we had that thing about the prices, but I'm over it. Can't we just go back to how things were?" Maria smiled, but it wasn't the warm smile she used to give him. "That'll be $5.50 for the coffee," she said. Alex waited for her to ask about his life, to invite him to stay and chat, to treat him special. She didn't. He paid, left, never came back again. Maria went back to work. She had real regulars now, people who asked how she was, who tipped well, who respected her time, who understood that relationships are built on mutual care, not one-sided extraction. She no longer believed that giving everything to everyone was what made her a good person. She'd learned that boundaries weren't walls, they were doors, and she got to choose who she opened them for. The modern lesson. This parable shows the same truth as the Maria story, but in a context everyone recognizes. The person who gives everything without expecting reciprocity. The person who takes without noticing they're taking, the one-sided relationship disguised as friendship. The moment when the giver realizes they've been used, the painful but necessary boundary setting, the peace that comes from choosing yourself. People who've been Maria understand why they have fewer friends now. They're not being bitter, they're being wise. They've learned that real friendship is reciprocal, that some people see relationships as resources to extract rather than connections to nurture. And they've decided that protecting their energy is more important than being liked by people who don't actually care about them. Understanding what this story reveals. The heart of the matter. George Carlin once said, "Inside every cynical person is a disappointed idealist." Maria wasn't born cynical. She was born generous, trusting, loving. But experience taught it a devastating lesson. Some people see relationships as transactions. They come when they need something. They leave when they've taken it. And when you've been someone's Maria too many times, when you've given your time, your energy, your money to people who never looked back, you stop believing in friendship. Not because you're damaged, because you've learned. What a lack of friends really indicates. When you see someone without friends, consider this. Maybe they've been a Maria or too many people. Maybe they've given generously, only to be discarded once they had nothing left to give. Maybe they've opened their heart repeatedly, only to have it treated as a resource to be extracted rather than a gift to be cherished. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by thousands in the Roman court, still felt profound loneliness, because most people around him wanted something, a favor, power, access, advancement. Very few wanted him, just him, the person beneath everything, the individual. That kind of loneliness, being surrounded by people who only see what you can provide, is more painful than being alone. Reason 1. Most friendships are conditional. The Stoic understanding. Epictetus taught his students to distinguish between authentic relationships and transactional ones. He'd ask, "Does this person value you for who you are, or what you can provide?" Most people don't consciously exploit others, but they unconsciously gravitate toward relationships where they gain something: status, entertainment, emotional support, opportunities, validation. When the benefit stops, so does the friendship. The experience. Sarah was everyone's go-to person for years. Need help moving? Call Sarah. Need a ride to the airport? Sarah will do it. Need someone to vent to at 2 a.m.? Sarah answers. She was generous with her time, her energy, her resources. She thought that's what friendship meant, being there for people. But then Sarah went through a difficult period, lost her job, struggled with depression, needed support. Suddenly, people were too busy, didn't respond to messages, made excuses. The moment she needed something, instead of providing something, the friends vanished. This wasn't one person. It was a pattern, and the pattern taught her a lesson she didn't want to learn. Most of her relationships were one-directional. Now she has very few friends, by choice, because she learned that quantity means nothing, that 100 people who are there when you're useful equals 0 people who are there when you're struggling. The transformation. People who've experienced this don't lack friends because they can't make them. They lack friends because they've learned to value authenticity over convenience. They'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who see them as resources. This isn't bitterness, it's wisdom, hard-earned, painful wisdom. Reason 2. Betrayed by those they trusted most. The Stoic perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." But revenge wasn't his concern. Understanding was. He knew that betrayal, especially by those we trust deeply, changes us. Not always for worse, despite what we assume. Sometimes it makes us wiser, more discerning, more careful about where we invest our trust. The experience. Michael had a best friend for 15 years. They'd grown up together, shared everything. He considered this person family. Then Michael started a business, asked his friend to be his partner, shared all the financial information, strategic plans, everything. 6 months later, the friend left, took the client list, the business model, the strategies they'd developed together, started a competing business. Not only did Michael lose the business he'd built, he lost the friendship he'd treasured. The betrayal wasn't just professional, it was personal, because it revealed that someone he'd trusted for 15 years had been willing to destroy him for personal gain. That kind of betrayal doesn't just hurt, it teaches. Michael became very selective about friendship after that. People saw him as distant, cold, antisocial. They didn't know he was protecting himself from repeating a mistake that had nearly destroyed him. Seneca wrote about this exact situation. He advised treating friendship as precious precisely because genuine friendship is rare. He said, trust shouldn't be given easily, but once given to someone worthy, it should be complete. The challenge is knowing who's worthy, and the only way to know is through time and observation. People who've been deeply betrayed understand this viscerally. They know that words are cheap, that declarations of friendship mean nothing, that only time and consistency reveal character. So they wait, they observe, they're slow to trust, not because they're damaged, because they're wise. Reason 3, they value depth over breadth. The Stoic insight. The Stoics weren't social butterflies. They were intentional about relationships. Seneca kept a small circle of close friends. Marcus Aurelius could count his true companions on one hand, despite ruling an empire. Epictetus taught students to be discerning about who they spent time with. Why? Because depth requires time, energy, and vulnerability, and you can't achieve depth with dozens of people. The modern confusion. Contemporary culture celebrates quantity. Social media measures popularity and followers, likes, connections. We've confused networking with friendship, acquaintances with intimacy, superficial pleasantness with genuine care. Someone with 500 Facebook friends and 2,000 Instagram followers is seen as socially successful. Someone with 2 real friends is seen as lonely. But which person can call someone at 3 a.m. during a crisis and know they'll answer? Which person has someone who knows their fears, their dreams, their authentic self? The experience. Jennifer used to maintain a large social circle. She'd go to parties, events, gatherings. She knew hundreds of people, could always find someone to grab coffee with or see a movie. But over time, she noticed something. These connections were shallow. Conversations stayed surface level. No one really knew her. She didn't really know them. They shared activities, but not lives. Time, but not truth. She started pulling back, investing deeply in 3 people who seemed genuinely interested in more than surface interaction. The large circle fell away. Most people didn't even notice. Some thought she was going through something. But Jennifer felt more connected than ever, because those 3 friendships had depth. They knew her, she knew them, they showed up for each other. Her social circle shrank dramatically, but her sense of belonging grew. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This applies to friendship. It's not how many friends you have, it's the quality of those friendships. People who understand this often have few friends, by choice, because they'd rather invest deeply in a few authentic relationships than maintain dozens of shallow ones. This isn't loneliness, it's intentionality. Reason 4. Solitude is better than toxicity. The Stoic foundation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." He understood that bad company is worse than no company. Seneca went further. He warned that toxic people drain your energy, corrupt your thinking, and make you less than you could be. He advised, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you can improve. If neither condition is met, walk away. David had a friend group that met every weekend. On the surface, it looked healthy, regular socializing, consistent connection, shared activities. But David started noticing patterns. Every conversation involved complaining about work, about partners, about life. Nothing was ever good enough. Nothing was ever appreciated. Every gathering involved drinking heavily, not casual drinking, escape drinking, using alcohol to avoid rather than enjoy. Every interaction included gossip, tearing down people who weren't present, sharing information that wasn't theirs to share. David realized he felt worse after spending time with this group, drained, negative, less like himself. He started declining invitations. The group didn't understand. What's wrong? Why are you being antisocial? Nothing was wrong. Everything was right. For the first time, David was choosing his mental health over social obligation. The friend group dissolved for him, and he didn't replace it immediately. He spent more time alone, reading, thinking, pursuing interests, rebuilding his energy. People saw him as lonely. He felt liberated. Epictetus taught that we become like the people we spend time with. If you surround yourself with complainers, you become more negative. If you surround yourself with gossips, you become less trustworthy. If you surround yourself with people who drain you, you have less to give to your own life. Solitude isn't failure. Sometimes it's self-preservation. People who've learned this often have fewer friends, not because they can't connect, because they refuse to connect with people who diminish them. Reason 5. Outgrowing previous social circle. The Stoic context. Change is the only constant. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about accepting change, about understanding that growth often means leaving familiar things behind. This includes relationships. So Rachel and her childhood friends had been close for 20 years. They'd grown up together, shared everything, had countless memories. But Rachel noticed something shifting. She'd started reading more, pursuing education, building a business, focusing on personal growth. Her friends remained stagnant. Same complaints, same habits, same conversations they'd had 10 years ago. At first, Rachel tried to bring them along, recommended books, invited them to workshops, shared what she was learning. But they weren't interested. They viewed her growth as judgment of them, her excitement as arrogance. The dynamic became uncomfortable. She no longer fit in conversations about topics that felt trivial. They resented her for changing. Gradually, the friendships faded, not through dramatic confrontation, through quiet divergence. Rachel found herself alone more often. People who knew her history assumed something had gone wrong. Nothing had gone wrong. She'd grown. They'd chosen not to, and that's okay. But it meant the friendships that once nourished her now felt constraining. Seneca wrote about this exact situation. He noted that friendships formed in youth often don't survive growth. Not because either person is wrong, because people grow at different rates in different directions. Forcing yourself to maintain friendships that no longer fit is like wearing clothes from childhood. Technically possible, but uncomfortable, constraining, wrong. People who've experienced this often find themselves with few or no friends for a period. They've outgrown one circle, but haven't yet found the next. They're in transition. This isn't failure, it's evolution. The Stoics would applaud it. Better to walk alone toward growth than stay stuck for companionship. Reason 6. Introversion isn't brokenness. The cultural misunderstanding. Modern culture treats extroversion as the ideal and introversion as something to overcome. We celebrate people who have packed social calendars, who know everyone, who are always on. We view quiet people with suspicion. Why are they so antisocial? What's wrong with them? This cultural bias creates shame around introversion. The Stoic reframe. The Stoics were mixed in temperament, but they all valued solitude as essential for wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations in solitude, private reflections never meant for publication. Seneca retreated regularly from Rome's chaos to think and write. Epictetus taught in small groups, valuing depth of interaction over breadth. They understood that some people recharge through solitude, that introversion is a temperament, not a flaw. Thomas had always been quiet, introspective, preferred deep conversation with one person over parties with dozens. His entire life, people asked, "Why are you so quiet? Why don't you talk more? Don't you want more friends?" The questions carried an implicit message. Something is wrong with you. Thomas tried. He went to social events, forced himself to be more outgoing, maintained friendships that felt draining. All it did was exhaust him. He wasn't being himself. He was performing a version of himself that culture deemed acceptable. At 30, he stopped. He accepted that he's introverted, that he needs solitude to function, that he prefers 3 deep friendships to 30 shallow ones. His social circle shrank dramatically. People assumed he was going through something, that he'd become depressed, that something had happened. Nothing had happened. He'd simply stopped pretending. Now he has 2 close friends. He sees them regularly, but not constantly. They understand his need for space. He spends significant time alone, reading, thinking, creating, recharging. To outsiders, he appears lonely. To himself, he feels more authentic than ever. Epictetus taught, "Know thyself." This includes knowing your temperament, your needs, your natural rhythms. Fighting your nature to meet social expectations is a recipe for misery. People who've accepted their introversion often have fewer friends, not because something's wrong, because they've stopped forcing themselves into an extroverted mold. They'd rather have 2 real friendships and abundant solitude than dozens of draining social obligations. Reason 7. Experienced loss and built protective walls. The human response. When you've lost people you loved deeply, through death, betrayal, or circumstance, the pain rewires you. You become more cautious, more protective, less willing to invest deeply because you know how much it hurts when you lose that investment. The Stoic perspective. Marcus Aurelius lost nearly everyone he loved, his children, his wife, his closest advisors. Yet he wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." This wasn't cold detachment. It was acceptance that attachment creates suffering, that love makes us vulnerable, that caring deeply means risking profound pain. The Stoics didn't advocate for not caring. They advocated for caring deeply while accepting that loss is inevitable. Michelle's best friend died suddenly at age 32. No warning, just gone. The grief was catastrophic. Michelle had never experienced pain like that. Months later, people encouraged her to get back out there, to make new friends, to move forward. But Michelle couldn't. The thought of investing that deeply in another friendship terrified her. What if she lost them too? What if she opened her heart again only to have it shattered? She maintained surface friendships, pleasant acquaintances, but she kept everyone at emotional distance. People saw her as closed off, unfriendly, difficult to know. They didn't understand she was protecting herself from experiencing that level of pain again. Seneca wrote about this exact situation. He acknowledged that fear of loss can prevent us from loving, but he also said it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. The people who've experienced profound loss walk a difficult line. They know the beauty of deep connection, and they know the agony of losing it. Many choose emotional safety over emotional risk. Fewer friends means less vulnerability, less chance of experiencing that pain again. This isn't wrong. It's self-protection, and it's valid. The path back to openness is slow. It requires healing, time, compassion for yourself. People who are here often have very few friends, not forever, but for now, while they heal, while they rebuild the capacity to trust life, not to shatter them again. Reason 8. Loneliness isn't the same as solitude. The critical distinction: loneliness is painful. It's the feeling of being disconnected, unseen, unknown. Solitude is peaceful. It's the choice to be alone, the embrace of your own company, the cultivation of internal richness. Most people confuse the two. They see someone alone and assume loneliness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He wasn't advocating for isolation, he was celebrating the richness of internal life. Seneca went further. He noted that some of history's greatest thinkers did their best work in solitude. That depth requires quiet. That wisdom needs space to emerge. The experience. After years of maintaining an exhausting social life, Patricia discovered something surprising. She enjoyed being alone, not lonely. Alone. She started taking solo trips, eating at restaurants by herself, going to movies alone, spending weekends without social plans. At first, she felt self-conscious. People looked at her with pity. "Are you here alone? Is everything okay?" But gradually, she stopped caring about others' perceptions. Being alone allowed her to think clearly, to process experiences deeply, to know herself authentically. She realized that much of her previous social life had been noise, distraction from herself, filling time rather than enriching it. Now she has one close friend. She sees them regularly. The relationship is deep, authentic, nourishing. Otherwise, she spends significant time alone, and she loves it. People assume she's lonely. She's never been more content. Epictetus taught that true freedom comes from within, that you can be surrounded by people and still feel imprisoned, or alone and completely free. People who've discovered rich internal lives often have fewer external relationships, not because they're antisocial, because they've learned that quality time with themselves is as valuable as quality time with others. They're not lonely. They're self-sufficient in the best possible way. Reason. 9. Waiting for authentic connection. The patience of wisdom. There's a difference between having no friends by circumstance and having no friends by choice. Some people are waiting, not passively, actively waiting for relationships worth having. The Stoic approach. Seneca wrote extensively about the rarity of true friendship. He noted that most people we call friends are actually acquaintances, pleasant people we know, but not friends in the deepest sense. Real friendship, the kind where both people see each other clearly and love what they see, is rare. The Stoics advised, don't lower your standards for friendship just to avoid being alone. Wait for the real thing, the experience. After multiple disappointing friendships, Marcus decided to stop forcing connection. He stopped attending social events out of obligation, stopped maintaining friendships that felt one-sided, stopped pretending to enjoy surface-level interaction. For 2 years, he had essentially no friends. He'd go to work, go home, pursue his interests alone. People worried about him. "You need to get out more. You're isolating yourself." But Marcus wasn't isolating, he was waiting. He'd rather be alone than in bad company. He'd rather wait for authentic connection than settle for shallow convenience. In year 3, he met someone at a bookstore. They started talking about a book they'd both read. The conversation went deep immediately. They became friends. Real friends. The kind of friendship Marcus had been waiting for. One authentic friendship was worth more than dozens of superficial ones. The Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything that exists is in a manner the seed of that which will be." Waiting for the right friendship is like waiting for the right seed to take root. You can't force it. You can't make something grow before its time. People who are waiting for authentic connection often appear to have no friends. They do have friends, just not yet, not until they find people worth the investment. This isn't pickiness, it's wisdom about where to invest limited emotional resources. What to do if this is you. First, release the shame. Having few or no friends doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It might mean you've learned hard lessons, that you value quality over quantity, that you're protecting yourself, that you're waiting for the real thing. All of these are valid, wise even. The Stoics would say, focus on what you can control, your character, your choices, your response to circumstances. You can't control whether others prove worthy of friendship. You can control whether you remain someone worthy of friendship. Second, examine your patterns. Ask yourself honestly, am I avoiding connection because I've been hurt? Valid, but consider whether healing might allow for new relationships. Am I choosing solitude because it genuinely nourishes me, healthy and beautiful? Am I waiting for authentic connection, wise and patient? Am I settling for no friendship when mediocre friendship is available? Sometimes the right choice. There's no wrong answer, but clarity about your situation helps you move forward intentionally. Third, build internal richness. Whether you have no friends temporarily or permanently, cultivate a rich internal life. The Stoics practiced this through daily reflection, writing, thinking, processing experiences, reading, learning from great minds across history, creating, building, making, contributing something meaningful. Self-development, constantly working to become better. When your internal life is rich, you're never truly alone. Fourth, stay open to connection. Even if you've been hurt, even if you're protecting yourself, even if you're waiting, stay open to the possibility of authentic friendship. Maria in our story closed herself off completely, and while that's understandable, it's also tragic. The final truth. A lack of friends indicates many things: that someone has been generous to a fault, that someone has been betrayed by those they trusted, that someone values depth over breadth, that someone chooses solitude over toxicity, that someone is in transition between circles, that someone understands their introverted nature, that someone is protecting a wounded heart, that someone has discovered rich solitude, that someone is waiting for the real thing. What it doesn't indicate, that something is fundamentally wrong with them. The next time you see someone without friends, consider that they might be Maria, that they've given so much of themselves that they've learned to be careful about who they give to. That's not brokenness, that's wisdom earned through pain. And perhaps, just perhaps, they're not lonely at all. Perhaps they've discovered something most people never learn, that your relationship with yourself is the foundation of all other relationships, that you can be alone without being lonely, that fewer authentic connections are worth more than countless superficial ones. The Stoics understood this 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by thousands in the Roman court, still cultivated his internal life through solitary reflection. Seneca, advisor to emperors, retreated regularly to be alone with his thoughts. Epictetus, who started life as a slave, found freedom through self-sufficiency. They all knew, your peace doesn't depend on how many people surround you. It depends on how you relate to yourself and how carefully you choose the few you allow close. Comment below, I choose wisely. Those 3 words are your declaration. That you will be discerning about friendship, that you will value quality over quantity, that you will protect your heart while remaining open to authentic connection. If this resonated with you, subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration of Stoic wisdom. Hit that notification bell. Share this with someone who might need to hear that their lack of friends doesn't indicate failure. It might indicate wisdom. Help us build this community of people who understand that solitude can be chosen, that few friends can be enough, that depth matters more than breadth. The Maria story doesn't have to be yours, but its wisdom can guide you. Stay grounded, stay discerning, stay open to the right connections. Remember what Seneca taught: One loyal friend is worth 10,000 relatives. Quality, always quality. Your friendship with yourself and with the rare, authentic others begins now.